Hey, good morning. I structured my talk in 3 parts. I'm going to shorten it a little bit because Bülent Bey told me that I have to finish it in 30 minutes. So the first part, I'm going to talk about some of the R&D key figures, where Turkey is, and where we are heading. The second part, we're going to talk about some of the recent support programs that we developed. We have roughly about 60 support programs. I'm not going to explain all of them. I'm going to explain the ones that are most relevant to this audience. And last, I'm going to talk some of the international collaboration activities, especially between Turkey and United States. Okay. If you look at good things that are happening in Turkey, bad things that are happening in Turkey. So I'm going to start with the good things. I'm not going to talk about the bad things. So good things, if you look at the last 10 years in Turkey, especially in terms of R&D, research and development activities, whatever key parameters that you look at, you're going to see a dramatic improvement. Actually, you're going to see fantastic improvements. I'm just going to highlight some of those ones. The most important one is, of course, how much of the GDP we are allocating to R&D. I mean, you all know that right now we are spending much more money to R&D. Much more money to R&D. In the year 2003, we were allocating 0.48% of the GDP to R&D. Right now, that number is 0.92%. So from 0.48 to 0.92%. Of course, these numbers are nothing to be proud of. 0.92, although it's almost doubled. But still, as compared to, for example, United States, these are very low numbers. US is allocating, I believe, roughly about 3% of the GDP to R&D. And Europe is allocating 2.2%. And Korea is allocating more than 4% already. But there's one thing that's good. In terms of pace of increase, we rank the second in the world. So we used to spend very little money on R&D. Right now, we are spending much more. And the pace of increase is really, really, really good. If we can sustain that for another 10 years, 20 years. So we are increasing this rate. I'm sorry, the rate is roughly about 22% year over year, the rate of increase. And we want to sustain that at least by the year 2023. So the same, I can pretty much say the same things for full-time equivalent researchers. In the year 2002, we had 24,000 researchers, full-time equivalent researchers. In the 2011, we have 72,000, tripled. This is actually tremendous improvement. But we have to have 300,000. So for a country size of the size of Turkey, the optimum number is roughly about 300,000. That's where we should have been. So that means we have a long way to go. So we are flying, that's true. In 10 years, just tripling the number of full-time equivalent researchers is really, really good job. But we have to do much more. Again, if we look at the number of patents and the publications, we had almost 0 patents. At the turn of the century, we had a little over 1,800 patents, which is pretty much nothing. Now we have roughly, every year, we have roughly 10,000 patent applications. Again, that is more than 5 times increase in 10 years. If you look at the scientific publications, you'll see the same story over there. In the year 2000, we had roughly 7,000 index publications per year coming out of Turkey. Right now, we have roughly about 30,000 index publications coming out of Turkey again, for quadrupled. Again, the story is pretty much the same. We are going very fast. We are running very fast. But still, the numbers are low. And actually, this is captured in this slide much better than all these 4 slides. We used this slide roughly 2.5 years ago in an important meeting. And then from then on, actually, it got stuck. And it's basically, it illustrates what middle income trap is and how Turkey could get out of this middle income trap. Basically, in this graph, the horizontal axis is GDP per capita. And it's logarithmic. And the United States is taken as the ideal wealthy society. So United States is 100. If you take the logarithm and so on and so forth, United States represents roughly about 5. And the horizontal axis, GDP per capita in the year 1960, 50 years ago. The vertical axis, again, is the same thing, GDP per capita, but at the present time, at the year 2008. So what we are saying over here is that, I'm not sure whether this works. Do we have the pointer? And it's probably easier explaining here. So at the year 1960, again, when the United States was 5, out of 5, we were roughly around 3. So we were a middle-income country in the year 1960, 50 years ago. So out of a scale of 5, we were getting middle grades, 3. And now, if you look at 2008, again, United States roughly 5. We are still getting, out of 5, we are still getting 3. So basically, in the past 50 years, as compared to the United States, we haven't moved. In the past 10 years, we might have run really, really fast, but there were other periods where we pretty much stopped. So if you step back and look at the bigger picture, I mean, we are always talking about the last 10 years, where we've done pretty good. But if you look at the bigger picture, we were a mid-income country, and we are still a mid-income country. So this box, this middle box is called mid-income box, and it is extremely difficult to get out of that box. If you are a mid-income country, you tend to stay as a mid-income country. There are a few countries, like these ones, the blue ones. They used to be mid-income country, but they are no longer a mid-income country. They are wealthy countries. So like South Korea, Japan, Ireland, Israel. And so they got out of this mid-income trap. And the only way, at least what literature suggests, the only way to get out of this mid-income trap is emphasizing education, R&D, innovation. There is no other way, as far as we know. So at least that's what, I mean, the good thing is that government believes so. So government thinks that we are in the mid-income, we are in the mid-income trap, and the only way to get out of this is to spend more resources on R&D, innovation, entrepreneurship, and education. So I'm going to talk a little bit about TÜBİTAK and how all this relates to TÜBİTAK. Actually, TÜBİTAK is at the center of this transformation. By law, we have to fulfill 3 obligations. One of them is help the government in formulating the science and technology policies. Our second function is to provide funding for the R&D projects, for both academia as well as industrial R&D projects. And our third function is carry out research on strategic fields. And the first one, we fulfill our first task through Science and Technology High Council. This is where all the science and technology policy decisions are made. It's chaired by the Prime Minister himself, and it includes almost all the ministers and high-level officials, and it meets every 6 months, and really important decisions are being made there. And one important decision I mentioned in the beginning, in this 23rd meeting, we've set some important targets for the R&D. So one target was that we want to allocate 3% of the GDP to R&D. That decision was taken roughly about two years ago. That means year over year, we have to increase all these spendings by 22% on average. So from 1 year to another year, everything has to increase. Pretty much everything has to increase by 22%. And that's what I would like to emphasize over here. I mentioned about our second task, and that's basically providing funding to R&D projects. And ARDEB is the name of the department, and many of you may know about it, especially those coming from Turkey. Is the name of the department within TÜBİTAK that provides funding to academia. So this is academic funding. If you look at the project proposal coming to ARDEB, you will see that it was from year 2008 to 2011, it was around 5,000 proposals. Turkey's project production capacity is roughly about 5,000. That's basically what it says. From year to year, we have a little bit, sometimes a little bit increase, sometimes a little bit down, and so on and so forth. Basically, Turkey, at any given year, from the universities, from the academic side, we can only produce 5,000 projects. These are applications, not funded projects. This number should have been around 30,000. That's why, but we know our year-to-year target. Year-to-year target is basically, we have to increase the numbers by 22%. That's why for the last 2 years, we really spent a lot of time and resources so that we can increase the production capacity of the universities. So in the year 2012, again, that increased roughly about 25%, and again, 2013. Right now, year over year, we are hitting our target. We are a little bit over our target. Our target is 22%. Year over year is 25% right now. The same story is for the industrial R&D projects. Industrial R&D projects actually were declining, interestingly. Again, since we know our targets, basically right now, number of project proposals has doubled in the last 2 years. So the situation right now, we have to reverse course, and we had to increase the number of projects, and that seems to be happening in the last at least couple of years. And our third function was to carry out, again, is to carry out research, strategic research in some of the institutes. TÜBİTAK has 19 institutes, roughly about 4,000 R&D personnel working in those institutes. And that part of TÜBİTAK you may not be aware of. I mean, before coming to TÜBİTAK, I really didn't know much. I mean, I knew that TÜBİTAK has a couple of institutes. I didn't know that the level of research is very similar to the level of research that's going on in the United States. I mean, really, really good things are happening in these institutes. Some of them are really advanced and doing really good work. And the project portfolio is increasing almost, again, it's pretty much the same rate, roughly about 25% year over year. until this point, I tried to give you a glimpse of what's going on in Turkey in terms of statistics. The short story is that absolute numbers are not too good, but the rate of increase is fantastic. So that's what's going on, in short. And in the second part, I want to talk about some of the programs that we've developed in the last 2 years, 2.5 years, so that we can get a glimpse of where we are heading. Because these are all recent programs. And I'm not going to talk, because it looks like we have some time constraints, so I'm going to shorten a little bit, talk about some of the important ones. Turkey had bottom-up approach for research funding. So if a university professor wants to work on a topic, then write a proposal and then send it to TÜBİTAK and so on and so forth. We didn't have any prioritization mechanism. We didn't have call-based proposals. Now we do have. So this is basically, we are, for the last couple of years, we are moving towards more mission-oriented programs. We have targets, we have prioritization, we have a systematic way of choosing these prioritization areas, and I'm not going to get into that, but there is a mathematically valid, there is a good model looking into needs analysis, looking at the capacity of Turkey, and looking at the strategic importance and some of the trends in the world. We select the areas, prioritization areas, and we issue call for proposals. For example, next week, we are going to announce the results of an important call. We are going to give 100 million to a company, and so for developing electrical vehicles. And so we're going to announce it probably next week. This is another program, is very similar to SPIR program here in the United States. We adopted the SPIR program, and of course, Turkey's environment, innovation ecosystem is a little bit different than, actually quite a bit different than what we have over here. That's why we had to change a couple of things. But in essence, it's the same program, and it is a lot easier to basically get funding in Turkey than the United States. Good thing about that, you don't have to live in Turkey to apply to this program. So if you have an idea, here is the thing. If you have an idea, and yesterday Professor Loh mentioned that, idea to impact. This is what it's trying to do. If you have an idea, then the government provides funding. Government provides mentorship so that you can turn that idea into a money-making enterprise. And it's a phase program, just like SPIR. We have 4 phases, and in 2 phases, we provide funding. In all the phases, we provide mentorship. And as I said, you don't have to be in Turkey. All that's needed is that your company needs to be in Turkey. So you can get this funding. You can set up a company in Turkey, put a couple of people in there. If you have a good idea, and if you hire the right people, then you could have and I know that a couple of people living in the United States set up companies in Turkey through this fashion, and they are doing pretty well. So again, that's there is an extension of this program, 1512 program. This program, although it's 2 years old, it became quite successful in that the private sector in Turkey, they came to TÜBİTAK and said that we want to be part of that. We want to invest in the companies that you select. So right now, we partnered with the industry in this program. It's completely optional for the entrepreneurs. They can choose TÜBİTAK, or they can choose, let's say, they can choose TÜBİTAK plus Türk Telekom. So Türk Telekom, I'm just giving, picked up some of one company over there. There's no magic in that company. All of these companies, sometimes they they provide funding, sometimes they provide space, sometimes they provide guarantees to buy the product. For me, that's the most important thing. So, and an entrepreneur can basically choose to work with these private companies if they choose to, if they want. Otherwise, they can go with the basic version, which is the TÜBİTAK version. So we have the co-funding with the private sector for this program. Recently, we decided that we decided to create what we call technology transfer offices at every university in Turkey. We want to have a mechanism, an interface between the outside world and the university. So there are here in the United States, we have Office of Sponsored Research, we have Office of Technology Licensing, we have incubator centers and so on and so forth. Basically, this one, Technology Transfer Offices, pretty much covered all of these things. And we want to establish that at each and every university in Turkey. So we are going by 10 batches. So in 2012, we provide 10 million grants to 10 universities, basically 100 million total. And every year we are doing this, and in a period of, let's say, 20 years, will be finished by all the universities in Turkey. And this one is rather interesting because all the other programs you might have heard somewhere else. This one, as far as we know, is unique. In this program, not industry, not academicians, but the fund managers are writing the project proposal. So if you have an entrepreneur with a lot of money, and if you want to create a fund, venture fund, and TÜBİTAK is saying that I'm going to subsidize some of your costs. So if you create a fund, and if you put $80, TÜBİTAK is willing to give $20 on your behalf. No string attached. We are not becoming a part of the companies. We don't have any stake in the companies. It's completely free. It's just subsidizing the cost of the fund. And this call was issued about 6 months ago. We were really wondering because it's so new. We don't have really any program anywhere in the world that's similar to this one. We didn't know what to expect. Maybe no one applied. I mean, it was possible that no one applied. And we were expecting maybe 2, 3, 4, but they applied the total 1.5 billion Turkish lira. So there were 16 applications. The total fund budget was 1.5 billion Turkish liras. And the good thing is that we could have supported all of them. We wanted some competition, and we wanted to highlight some of the areas. That's why we didn't fund all of them. But actually, we do have the financial resources to really fund all of these things. And of course, this call will be renewed again, maybe 6 months down the road. Again, it turned out to be really one of the very successful programs. And if you want to establish a fund, as you see here, the origin of the fund could be anywhere. It could be a US venture fund. We don't care. The only thing that we care is that the company that you're going to invest should be in Turkey. There is no other strings attached. And another program that we came up roughly about a year ago is that Project Performance Award. this is an interesting concept, especially for the United States, because here, if you do a sponsored research, of course, you cover your salary, but that's basically, you don't get any money into your pockets. It just covers your salary, your summer salary and so on and so forth, or buyout for the courses. Here, in Turkey, if you do a project, basically you get money into your pocket. I'm not talking about the research money and so on and so forth. That you all get all these things. I mean, the professors will get all that money, plus basically you will get some supplemental income to your pocket, and it is not a trivial amount of money. That's basically based on the performance, and we have some performance parameters. They are all objective performance parameters. You could get up to 100,000 Turkish liras per project. You could do as many projects as you want. So if you are really successful, if you do, let's say, 3, 4, 5 projects, and if you're a really good professor, and getting, it says up to 100K, it is not that tricky. Actually, if you write 3 or 4 papers, you would get 100K. And here, since we want to highlight things like companies, products, and the models. For example, if you found a company, you're almost guaranteed to get 100K. I mean, do nothing. Let's say you have a project, you didn't write any paper, you didn't do anything, and so on and so forth, but at the end, you came up with a product and a company selling that. I think the number, you get 90 points out of 100. And we have another incentive programs for the papers. I'm not going to go over that. This one, and there are some, this is a heterogeneous group of professors and academicians. I can see that some of them are from Turkey, some of you are from Turkey, some of them are based in the United States. But this one, this slide, and you might have seen the previous slides several times in my previous talks, but this is probably, you are seeing this for the first time. This is, I consider this as our TÜBİTAK's finest accomplishments in the last 2 years. The reason is that this is going to change how the university system functions in Turkey in a dramatic way, in a really, really dramatic way. This happened only 2 months ago. So many of the professors, even the Turkish scientific community doesn't know about it. They are just announcing it quite recently. So basically, if you want the universities function much more effectively, if you want the R&D to become part of the university system, some of the university budget has to come from the R&D, so external funding. Here in the United States, we looked at the United States numbers, 25 on average, 25% of the university's budget is from research, is from research funding. Most of them are sponsored research. We looked at Japan, we looked at Singapore, we looked at European countries. Actually, the number is even higher over there. So more than 25%. In, let's say, Singapore is getting more like 50%. And even UK. 2 minutes? Okay. So, anyway, so that means, so what happened is that the overhead rates, and this was quite costly, but right now, if a university gets a research grant, 3 things are happening. Of course, you're getting some money for the project. 1, you are getting some money for the professors as a supplemental income. You are getting some money for the rector, for the university. And that overhead rate right now is increased to 50%. I believe that that's going to fundamentally change how the universities function. Because the cost to Turkey is 650 million Turkish liras per year. So there will be a lot of new money coming into the universities through this project mechanism. The more project you get, the more success, basically, the more money the university rector will have, and it will be at the discretion of the university rector how to spend that money. We have a couple of basically scholarship programs that maybe I can highlight one, because given the time, there were actually a few of them, but I can highlight one. If we want the professors, especially the Turkish American community, to come and spend the sabbatical years or the summers in Turkey. And for, summer years. So you don't have to look for research money anyway. So that's good for you as well. So if you, let's say, if you're a professor in one of the universities in the United States or Canada or any other abroad, doesn't matter, then let's say if you want to spend your summer years in one of the universities in Turkey, TÜBİTAK provides 3,500 monthly stipend dollars, and plus the travel expenses, plus the health insurance. And on top of that, the university provides usually some of the other expenses, and university provides extra funding. This is what the TÜBİTAK provides. On top of that, the university can provide anything they want. So you can apply anytime. So it's a rolling type of application. So you can go from minimum of 3 months to maximum of 12 months a year. It looks like we do have, I'm not going to go into, so we do have another program called Return Home Fellowship Program. If you want to return to Turkey, absolutely you must apply to this program. There's no downside, there's only uppers and basically positives. And the number of applications to this program increased 5-fold last year. Okay, Brent is going to get angry with me, so I'm gonna stop here, because we had, and the other speaker can talk about that, there's a second phase where we had a US-Turkey action plan. We had an agreement, and based on the agreement, we had a roadmap, and the specifics of the roadmap, I hope, would be explained by the next speaker. Thank you.